Richard Cohen is a columnist for the Washington Post who is, he's a bad columnist, but he's also a reprehensible human being, right? So that's the part you have to remember. He's racist, he's bigoted, he says creepy things, he's a sexual harasser, and he has a column at the Washington Post. That's right, the Washington Post. So his latest column, somehow he put, first of all, let me just show you what kind of guy he is. This is what he wrote in 1998 when he was accused of sexual harassment, and he wrote a column kind of excusing himself, and here's what he said. He says, Miss H sits near my office where she does God's work. Journalism. Cruising down the aisle one day, I pass her and take notice. Ms. H is wearing a short skirt and her legs are extended into the aisle. One glance triggers a rush of hormones that, like an anesthetic, block the nerves leading to my common sense. Great legs, I say, to which I get a lecture on male chauvinist pigism. Admonished, I retreat to my office, momentarily confused, but in the end, wiser. Because I'm only a columnist at the Washington Post. How would I know about anything? So that's who he is, by the way. So that's a guy who finds it men are just victims to their sexual impulses, and they can't help themselves in what they say or what they do. And yet, he's upset at Miley Cyrus. Like, she's a big whore, right? Because she's owning her sexuality and doing sexual things. Here's what he had to say. Miley Cyrus twerked. I had to look up that word since my indefatigable spell checker had no idea what I meant. I discovered from Wikipedia that twerking involves a person, usually a woman, shaking her hips in an up and down bouncing motion, causing the dancer to shake, wobble, and jiggle. That's precisely what Cyrus did at the recent MTV Video Music Awards, for which she has been amply and justifiably criticized. She's a cheap act, no doubt about it. But for me, her performance was an opportunity to discuss one of the summer's most arresting pieces of journalism, a long New Yorker account of what became known as the Steubenville Rape case. Cyrus should read it. So somehow he goes from Miley Cyrus doing a suggestive sexual dance at the VMAs, which is known for sexual suggestive dances, and somehow he makes a connection to the Steubenville Rape case, as if somehow Miley Cyrus is responsible for those guys raping that drunk girl in Ohio. But he says the first thing you should know about the so-called Steubenville Rape is that this was not a rape involving intercourse. The next thing you should know is that there weren't many young men involved. Just 2 were convicted. And the next thing you should know is that just about everything you do know about the case from TV and the internet was wrong. First of all, why are those the first 2 things you should know? The first thing you should know about it is that a girl was drunk and got raped in public. In front of people, stuff happened. That's the first thing you should know about it. And that it met the legal definition of rape in red state Ohio. So that is a rape, okay? And it happened. I don't understand. So this is Richard Cohen again. When do you get disqualified from public discourse?
Jimmy,
because you're a columnist at the Washington Post, you could say the most vile thing. This is victim blaming. This is shaming. This the rape victim for. It's unbelievable what he's doing.
So really fast. So my favorite part of that is when he says there weren't that many men involved, just 2 were convicted.
2.
So Richard Cohen, how many men would have to rape you before you considered it an immoral or offensive act?
What do you think?
Answer that in the next copy of the Washington Post.
Yeah.
1 for me.
Yeah, I think 1.
2 for me, but whatever.
Can we let's just play his next
JR like that one.
Go ahead.
What do you think his point is?
Well, let's see.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
So now back to Miley Cyrus and her twerking. I run the risk of old foginess for suggesting the girl's a tasteless twit, especially that bit with the foam finger. Look it up if you must. But let me suggest that acts such as hers not only objectify women but debase them. They encourage a teenage culture that has set the woman's movement back on its heels. What is being celebrated is not sexuality, but sexual exploitation. A mean casualness that deprives intimacy of all intimacy. Cyrus taught me a word. Now let me teach her one. She's a twerk. Let me teach Richard Cohen a word. You are a creepy motherfucker. And for you to sit there and say that somehow Miley Cyrus has to take responsibility for what 2 rapists did in Steubenville, Ohio, 2 years before she did that dance at the VMA, because that's what happened. Those kids in Steubenville were drunk. They see a drunk girl. They go, I bet in a couple years, Miley Cyrus is going to act like a slut on the VMAs. So let's rape this girl. That's what happened, Richard Cohen. Richard Cohen still has a job at the Washington Post. Nothing disqualifies you from public persona anymore. You can say the most gross things. This is, okay, am I wrong about this, Desi?
No. I mean, I found the whole article just appalling, just absolutely appalling. And when he, talks about using Miley Cyrus, I think he's just being opportunistic and trying to say, okay, I'm going to weigh on this. But also, this thing I really want to talk about is this Steubenville rape and his also appalling, outrageous statements calling this that the Steubenville rapists, the entire group, was a digital lynch mob that went after them when they were innocent. There was not a classic rape. I think he actually says
classic,
the word
was it a classic rape?
There was not, which to me, that's this man should not be writing anymore. This is just.
But he will be. You know he will be. He's not going to get fired for that.
I mean, as a writer, he's doing like just a very simplistic trick that a lot of writers do. He's taking the Miley Cyrus thing, which for 3 days nobody could stop talking about, and he's trying to then twist somehow using the word twerking so it shows up on the Google search terms into what he really wants to talk about, which is this bizarre defense of rape. Which is the crazy thing. There's really no connection between an event that happened 2 years prior to the VMAs and what happened. So
if you had to guess, how many times did he watch that video of Miley Cyrus twerking on Rubin
1,000 times.
Probably a few.
Well, he probably had a rush of just hormones. That it's just natural.
Blocked off
he
his
couldn't
common
help.
sense.
Yeah.
So last year
That's what happened when he wrote this. He had his common sense blocked off by his
for
boner.
a couple minutes.
Yeah.
He was watching Miley Cyrus.
Okay.
So last summer and last year we had legitimate rape. That was like the arguments that Republicans were making. That was the big discussion about rape. This has been like the year, and especially the summer, of rape culture. Like Blurred Lines raised all these discussions about, is this contributing to rape culture? Everybody's talking about it. And I think that he is certainly free as a person to try to discuss it. The problem is that he's coming from a mindset of the 70s or perhaps earlier, and so he's just not qualified. He's so out of date with what's going on. And I think it's an extremely complicated subject that is often simplified by people on either side, on the men's rights side of it, or feminists who have sort of a political bone to pick and want to gear up the outrage machine in a way that advances their side of the argument. But I think it is extremely complicated. I think that it is going to take years for our culture to settle on what is actually appropriate and the bounds of what's appropriate when it comes to suggestive terminology and things like that, lyrics of songs like Blurred Lines. That's going to take us a long time to reach. And I just think he has shown he's not qualified to engage.
Is there a dance move that Miley Cyrus could do that would make you rape someone, John?
I don't like what she did, but I don't like for her own sake what she did. I don't
make
think
you a rapist.
No, I don't think so.
That's my point. No matter what
let's
someone
settle
does.
on that.
Right,
I don't want to be a rapist.
The thing is that what he wrote earlier in the first part that you read, he wrote in '98, he's already saying, I can't control myself.
Yes.
I am a victim of this evolutionary thing, and there is something going on with the chemistry in my brain. I can't control myself. So if you then add in a twerking Miley Cyrus and a big foam finger,
I'm going to rape you.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, guess this is what guys do. That's what he's saying. Columnist for the Washington Post is saying that guys can't help but be rapists. And he has a column at the Washington Post. Did I mention that?
I don't think you're going to get invited to his Christmas party.
I hope so.
Probably not.
You know what I'll bring him? Something probably funny.